Jai Hind, Namaste, hello and a very warm welcome to UPSC for everyone. My name is Abhinav and in this video we'll be discussing The Hindu and Indian Express for the date 12th of November 2020. Now for your convenience, I have added timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip to a particular news, please use those timestamps. Also, free PDF for selected topics are available on the Telegram channel, the link to which is in the description. Also, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos that we post. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. So without wasting your time, let's get started. So starting with the Hindu, government to govern OTT platforms. So what is OTT? Stands for over the top. So till now they were not governed by any rule, any regulation, but now they have been brought under the regulation of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Now we'll see why that has happened. Government has been indicating that there was a need to bring these under some form of regulation because the content was largely uncensored. So some of these players, they also came up with self-regulation system, but government did not agree to it. So now they have finally put it under government regulation, right? So being brought under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, currently no law or autonomous body. Now it will be under the purview of INB ministry. Earlier efforts, I've already told you, government was looking for a negative list of don'ts for video streamings. Then they came up with self-regulatory body proposal, 8 video streaming services. The court said some things about disrespect to national emblem and other things, right? So government did not agree to it, right? Now what would be covered? Only the OTT platforms? No. Also news and current affairs content, very, very important because they have been responsible for spreading propaganda, false propaganda and fake news. So they would also be subjected to now the control of INB. Now what are the reasons? There are 2 big reasons. Number 1, the size of market and the wide audience. And number 2, to create a level playing field. So let us explore these. Now talking about big market and wide audience, Indians are consuming more content than ever. There are more than 17 plus crore OTT users, right? And there was a survey conducted in 2019 which found out that 55% of people preferred content on OTT, 70% preferred content on mobile, and only 41% preferred content on DTH. Now what is the advantage of OTT? That you can get any content on demand. That is why you go for binge watching and all that. Now by 2025, this market is going to be worth rupees 4,000 crore in India only. So see, so many users and this revenue. So that is why there is a need, number 1, to regulate it. The other need is about creating a level playing field. So currently no law or autonomous body governing digital content, whereas print and broadcast media is regulated, right? And the films on OTT are self-certified. So broadly talking about the print and broadcast media, they are regulated through a series of laws, and then there are self-regulating bodies. So what are the laws? IT Act 2000, CRPC 1973 and Cable TV Regulation Act. These are the laws that govern print and broadcast media, and self-regulating bodies being Press Council of India, which looks after the print media, News Broadcasters Association, which takes care of TV news channels, then Advertising Standards Council of India for advertising, and the CBFC for monitoring films. But no such body for OTT. So they were having undue advantage. So to create this level playing field, we have done so. Then this one, Ladakh standoff, India-China finalizing disengagement plan. So now China has finally agreed to restore the status quo ante, and they are finalizing the plan. Now when they come out with the plan, we'll be discussing that in detail. We've already discussed all the developments, finger 4 to finger 8. Then India occupied the strategic heights at the south bank of the Pangong Lake and also the north bank, some plains, right? Overlooking the Moldo post of China, which was very, very important for China. And main reason is, I've been telling you, they are just paper tigers. They cannot sustain survive the harsh winters there. We've also discussed the weaknesses of Chinese army, and one of the biggest weakness of PLA is that the soldiers that they have, they are basically the legacy of one child policy. So they are spoiled brats. So they cannot handle such harsh situations. That is why they are backing off. Now let this plan come and then we'll discuss. Then center unveils incentives to boost manufacturing. Now PLI scheme has been extended to 10 more sectors. We've been discussing about PLI. Earlier it was for mobile phones and electronic component makers. Now it has been extended to 10 more centers. So let us look into it. So the scheme to encourage domestic manufacturing, estimated outlay 1.46 lakh crore. Now the sectors identified on the basis of potential to create employment and make India self-reliant, right? Important. Then linkages with the global value chain and the sunrise sectors. I've told you the fast growing sectors are known as sunrise sectors. The scheme will make Indian manufacturers globally competitive, right? Attract investment in the areas of core competency and cutting edge technology, ensure efficiencies by creating economies of scale, and enhance our exports and make us an integral part of global supply chain. Now, this word has become very, very important, global supply chain. Now, these are the 10 key sectors. You can read their names. Nothing for me to explain here. Then how to make your application. First, they will go to Empowered Finance Committee. And after that, Cabinet will take the final decision. And the concerned departments and ministers would start implementing this scheme immediately. And they have also left a window open so that new sectors can be included after fresh approvals from the Cabinet. Now, what is Production Linked Incentive Scheme? Again, just a recap for you guys. This aims to give companies incentives on incremental sales from products manufactured in domestic units. So this is for ensuring and for promoting domestic manufacturing, right? So they give them incentives in terms of tax rebates. The idea of PLI is important as government cannot continue making investments in these capital intensive sectors. More so in this pandemic period, government is short of money. So government cannot make investment in this capital incentive sector because it takes longer time to start giving the returns. So that is why government is including more and more private sector and also inviting foreign companies to start manufacturing in India. Then to page 10, none of the editorials is important today. Sputnik V vaccine 92% effective, says Russia. So let us look at it. So the Russian Health Ministry has said that this vaccine has found to be 92% efficacious among a group of volunteers who are part of phase 3. Remember we discussed yesterday about the vaccine from Pfizer and it was 90% efficacious. This is 92%, but that was based on data from 94 patients and this is based on data from 20 patients only, right? So analysis of 20 participants, trial consists of 20,000 people. Efficacy percentage means that when cases were split among placebo group and vaccinated group, 92% of those who were vaccinated were safe. Now placebo means a fake medicine, which means that it is not a medicine or not a actual viral shot, but simply multivitamins are given to the participants and it is completely random that who gets the placebo and who gets the vaccine, right? Now, so out of the vaccinated group, 92% were safe. It is close to efficacy percentage of Pfizer, mRNA vaccine 90% efficacious, but the volunteer set was 94. They are also conducting trials in multiple countries. In India, Dr. Reddy's Hyderabad we've been discussing, and there was also news about them being subjected to cyber attack. So Hyderabad based Dr. Reddy's is conducting trials in India. Sputnik V's efficacy is yet to be published in a peer reviewed medical journal, and so is the case with Pfizer. Now there were no unexpected adverse events. Data so far available for Pfizer vaccine did not indicate, please pay attention, if it was effective at preventing disease transmission, right? So whether it is just curing or saving one person, or is it helpful or effective in preventing disease transmission, or was good enough only to protect from the severe disease. There was also no evidence disclosed whether it protected older and more vulnerable people. So still many miles to go before you can start celebrating about a vaccine. Now I've also created this small comparison between Sputnik V and Pfizer vaccine, which is known as BNT162b2. So this is based on adenovirus, right? And this is mRNA. We've been discussing both the things. Then this is a version of live virus, and this is basically a synthetic substance which is programmed to induce the production of spike protein, right? We've been discussing that. Now we discussed how this vaccine has to be stored at ultra cold temperature up to minus 90 degrees Celsius, and that needs much more investment in cold chain infrastructure, especially in our country. And number two, we don't have an agreement with Pfizer as of yet. Now, if we talk about Sputnik V, we have agreement with the company Gamaleya Institute in Russia, and this vaccine has two versions. One is the liquid, which can be stored at minus 18 degrees Celsius, and other is the lipophilized, which is freeze dried and it can be stored at 2 degrees Celsius to 8 degrees Celsius. So this basically has advantage over it, but then again Russians, so we really can't trust. And this is 92% efficacious and 90% efficacious. Efficacious we've discussed that all those persons who were given the vaccine were safe. So this is about it. Then this we've discussed 18-ton red. So this was done under Operation Thunder 2020, right? An 1810 shipment of red sandalwood destined for UAE was intercepted and it was detained. Now, this Operation Thunder was coordinated by Interpol and World Customs Organization, and it involved law and enforcement agencies in 103 countries. Now, this is an operation against environmental crime, and it resulted in large seizures of protected wildlife and forestry specimens and products, triggering arrests and investigations worldwide. The participating countries, 103, focus mainly on the species protected under the CITES. So, we'll also get to know something about the CITES. Wildlife and forestry crime, please pay attention because your GS paper 3, this is important for your GS paper 3, environment and also law and order, organized international crime. So that is a part, right? So wildlife forestry crime, world's fourth largest illegal trade, a lucrative illegal business with far reaching and devastating consequences, not just upon environment, but society, public health and global economics. So its impact is multi-sectoral. So that is why you need to control that. Now about the CITES, it is an international agreement between governments which curtails international trade or regulates international trade in specimens of both flora and fauna. That means wild animals and plants. So please pay attention, flora and fauna both are covered. That the trade does not threaten their survival, and the countries or the parties, they adhere voluntarily. Whosoever signs is known as party. CITES is legally binding, but it does not take place of national laws. It provides a framework to enable these provisions of CITES. Now, these are the categorization of species under CITES. So, there are total 9 categories of species of both flora and fauna. Not evaluated, data deficient, right? Then least concerned, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild and extinct. So this is the most dangerous and least concerned, right? So overall 9, about 2 we don't know. Number 1, not evaluated and data deficient. So again, I have put the things, you can read in a PDF. Now based on their endangerment, they are put under appendix. So there are basically 3 appendix, appendix 1, appendix 2 and appendix 3. So appendix 1 is the highest level of protection under CITES. So they would be critically endangered and extinct in wild. So their commercial trade is prohibited. Then appendix 2, commercial trade is allowed provided certain procedures are followed to ensure it is legal and sustainable. And then appendix 3, this is to address the legal origin. It includes species protected by at least one country that has requested assistance to help regulate this trade. So this is about CITES, just a brief introduction. When you study your GS, you will be learning in detail about CITES. Then this one, Home Ministry amends FCRA rules. We've been discussing time and again FCRA, it comes under the purview of Ministry of Home Affairs. We've been discussing about NGOs and whatnot. So it has now relaxed norms for farmers, student, religious and other groups who are not directly aligned to any political party to receive foreign funds if they are not involved in active politics. So 2 conditions. Number 1, not directly aligned to any political party, and number 2, not involved in any active politics, right? So they notified these new rules under FCRA 2010, the Act, and the rules FCRA rules 2011, and they have specified these under clause 5 and 6 of sub rule 1. Now you don't need to know what those clauses are. Then page 13, Sri Lanka yet to take final call on container terminals. So this is known as the East Container Terminal at Colombo Port, jointly developed with India and Japan. Agreement was signed last year with the previous government, but now we know that Rajapaksas are somewhat pro-China, right? And they are taking so many loans from China. And I've told you that Sri Lanka next year has to pay back 4.5 billion loans to China, right? And they have literally or virtually sold off Hambantota because it has been leased to China for next 99 years, right? Excuse that they are giving is that port workers union are resisting this project because of Indian involvement and they don't want external players to invest in Sri Lanka, but the real reason is China. Now this deal was signed last year, right? It is a tripartite deal between India, Japan and Sri Lanka. Now see the interesting part. We have been so generous with this deal, but Rajapaksas, because they have taken so much money from China, they are not ready for this deal. So this MOC, Memorandum of Cooperation, was signed with Sri Lanka Port Authority. It was to have 100% ownership, and the company which would be operating the terminal operations even in that company, SLPA would have 51% ownership and India and Japan jointly 49%. So see, such favorable terms of trade, but they would rather trade with China. So this is a weakness of Sri Lanka, not Indian diplomacy. So this is the port that we are talking about. This is Colombo port. This is the East Container Terminal. This is CICT. This is a deep Chinese terminal, deep port Chinese terminal. See, such closeness, and that is why we want it here, right? So what are the Indian interests? Strategic move. India's interest in the project has been well known for its commercial and strategic motives. The ECT adjoins the Colombo International Container Terminal I've just shown you, right? SLPA's joint venture with Chinese company that holds 85% stake. So you see, we were giving them 51% stake and 100% ownership, but they would rather trade with Chinese. So stupidity. So this is a deep water terminal, busiest at Colombo port. Now this ECT is also close to China-backed 1.4 billion port city, which is coming up on reclaimed land at Colombo seafront. And I've told you earlier as well, China is an expert of reclaiming land and building artificial islands. That is what it has been doing in the South China Sea. So let me show you this port city as well. So see, this is the Colombo port. This is the East Container Terminal, and this is the port city. And this is the CICT, the Chinese terminal. Here, the Chinese company owns 85% and we are giving them 51% ownership here. Still, they want to trade with China. Now, this is the Colombo Port City project. You can read about it in the PDF, right? New Delhi has more than one reasons to pin its hope on the ECT, especially after Rajapaksa administration ruled out any Indian involvement in developing the Matalla airport near the Chinese-built Hambantota port. Let me show you that. And I have already told you they virtually sold it off to China for 99 years. So see, this is Colombo port, this is Hambantota port, and this is the Matalla airport, right? The ones in blue are Indian constructions. You can see very few, and the red ones are Chinese constructions, right? And again, this is the Colombo harbor, and this is the whole project. South terminal, which is CICT, this is ECT, and this is the site of artificial island that they are building, $1.4 billion port city project. Now, the problem, what they are saying is that there is resistance from workers' union because they don't want foreign investment in national assets and they are selling off their country. So this is what it is. So rest you can read from the PDF. Then just the headline, Bahrain PM, world's longest serving, dies at 84. His name is Prince Khalifa bin Salam Al Khalifa. Then Myanmar opposition rejects unfair election. So this is the problem in every country. Then UK launches bill to deter malicious takeovers. So basically they have brought out this law to check Chinese investments which are taking advantage of this pandemic to maliciously take over companies, strategically important companies. We have also done so in India. We came out with new FDI rules that all the countries which are sharing a land border with us, their investments would be monitored. So UK is also doing the same. US is also doing the same. Many European countries are doing the same. So to prevent foreign companies snapping up strategic assets in malicious takeovers that are deemed to threaten national security, this law is known as National Security and Investment Bill, would protect UK from malicious investments. The new powers come as increasing Chinese investment has sparked calls from lawmakers for Prime Minister Johnson to take a stronger stance on Beijing. So this is about it. Then page 14, GDP shrank 8.6% in Q2, pushing economy into a recession. So it is the second consecutive quarter. The first quarter it was minus 23 point something, 3.6 I guess, contraction. Now it has slowed down to 8.6, that is minus 8.6, but still it is a contraction. So in 2 consecutive quarters, we have experienced contraction in economic growth. So technically we are under a recession now in the first half of 2020-21 financial year because 2 consecutive quarters of GDP contraction. So in India, I have told you earlier as well when I introduced you to the concept of recession that internationally there is no fixed definition as to what comprises a recession. So in India, if there are 2 successive quarters of GDP contraction, we take it as a recession. This is all I wanted to tell you. Rest you can read from the PDF. Infra PPP eligible for viability gap funding. So first of all, what are PPP projects? They are projects that are important, some infrastructure projects, but government does not have enough money. So it involves a private player. That is why public-private partnership. So they are called PPP. Now there are multiple models of operating PPP. The most common example of PPP projects that you see around you are toll roads, right? they are generally built under PPP process. Now, what are the advantages? Government gets access to funds, right? And the private players, they bring in their expertise. So it is a win-win situation. And the consumer at the end of the day, in theory, gets quality infrastructure. But then there are problems. When you study about PPPs in detail, you'll be getting to know that. Now, what is viability gap funding? Now, this is for some project which is financially sound, but there is problem of funding because of constrained resources. So to ensure that this project goes through, a special funding, it could be one-time grant or some other form of funding is provided, and that is known as viability gap funding. And then there is also social infrastructure. Now I'll tell you what is social infrastructure. So provision of financial support by means of viability gap funding for PPP in important social sector investments such as health, education, water and waste treatment. Now Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs has approved the continuation of this scheme. It was started in 2006 and has been extended till 2024-25. Now what is social infrastructure? It broadly defined as the construction and maintenance. So see, both parts are important. Construction and maintenance of facilities that support social services like health, education, water and waste management. Types of social infrastructure include healthcare, education, public facilities and transportation. So they all come under social infrastructure, and they are also very essential and critical for public affairs and for social development. So they have also been covered under this PPP VGF, viability gap funding scheme. Now what is viability gap funding or VGF? It means a grant provided to support infrastructure projects that are economically justified but fall short of financial viability. The lack of financial viability usually arises from long gestation periods and inability to increase user charges to commercial levels. For example, if you want to raise the toll charges, then there would be a problem. So this is how VGF becomes useful. Then again, there could be projects that could take almost 10 years or 15 years for completion. So they are very long gestation periods. So for that, you use VGF, right? Then Amazon accuses future of insider trading. So this tussle is going on between Amazon and Future, and the ultimate players are Amazon and Reliance. Now it is saying that Future was not supposed to sell its stakes to Reliance, and it has also disclosed the insider information about company to Reliance, which the agreement between Amazon and Future did not agree to. So this is what it is saying. You can read that. Then starting with the Indian Express, China proposes pullback at Pangong, India considers offer. So again, we've been discussing, I've told you that they have come to finger 4. So they'll be going back to finger 8, and they also want India to vacate the strategic positions at North Bank and South Bank of Pangong Tso Lake. Now, how would we monitor that? We would be using drones and all that. So right now we're just inking out the details. Once that becomes clear, then we'll discuss that in detail. So we would be going for status quo ante. That means the condition that was on ground before this Chinese incursion started in April. And there's also talk of withdrawal of tanks, artilleries to the depth area. So this is what it is. You can read it, nothing rocket science, and I'm not getting into it because I have explained this to you so many times. Then this about the PLI scheme we have discussed. Then Pfizer Sputnik V we've discussed. Then recession we've discussed. I've told you when there is continuous contraction in 2 continuous quarters, then we are known to be under recession. Then page 9, just an example. Odisha to introduce fish in nutrition scheme. So their own government scheme under which they provide supplementary nutrition to women and children. Now they would be introducing fish and fish products because they're high in omega fatty acids, proteins and other micronutrients. So that is why they're using fish and fish products. Then stalled by COVID, first snow leopard census starts in Uttarakhand. So snow leopard are highly elusive creatures, right? Till now, we did not know about their actual numbers because their sightings are very, very rare. We have just made some estimations. So now India had suggested that at least for our own country, we would be going for a detailed analysis and census of snow leopards, but that was halted because of this COVID. Now they are going to start again. So India has launched its first ever census of the rare and elusive snow leopards population that mainly inhabits the higher reaches of, which are the regions Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, but it's also found in Jammu and Kashmir, Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. See, these are the types of questions that come in your PT. So please make it a note that these are the regions where snow leopards are found. And it is also very important because by the time next year you will be writing your prelims, this census would more or less would be out, or it would have advanced to a very high level, right? So it would be in news. So it's good that you mark on your map and you make your notes that these are the regions where it is found. Now, according to a habitat-based estimate 3 years ago, there are 626 snow leopards scattered across 1.2 lakh square kilometer area at heights of between 3000 to 5000 meters. As per the estimate, Ladakh has 130, followed by Himachal Pradesh with 90 and Uttarakhand with 86. So these are the regions, and this is snow leopard. Then just the heading, rupees 75 crore daily collections via FASTags, NHAI. Then page 17, Pfizer in talks on India plan, PAX logistics may limit access. So we have discussed in detail what are the constraints. Number one, the constraint is the cold chain facility, right? So that is the problem of logistics, and there are some pacts. Pfizer has already made pacts with different countries, and it has said that it is going to be focusing on them only. So this is what it is telling. Then just the headline again, Air India invites bids for raising 6150 crore to repay aircraft debt. So this airlines is under debt and it is not being sold off. Now, telecom services suspension rules amended. Just a small news, the Department of Telecommunication has amended the temporary suspension of telecom services rules and said that such suspensions of services cannot be other rules. The DOT in 2017 had come out with temporary suspension of telecom services rules in 2017, which were to be used by the central government, state government and districts in case of public emergencies and also ensure safety. So whenever there's a chance of a riot or any problem, then what they do, they suspend the telecom services in the region. Why? Because through internet, they should not be spreading of rumors or false mongering or hate mongering, right? The rules say that no government department except the Ministry of Home Affairs, again, who can do that? Ministry of Home Affairs or a state's Home Affairs department can issue these orders, because Home Affairs is responsible for law and order. So this is about it. Then page 20, poll officials across US say no major fraud. So folks, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel. Also press the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos, and please give us a thumbs up if you liked our videos. Also connect with us on our Instagram page UPSC for everyone, and please connect with us on our Telegram page where you can access the PDFs of the videos that I'll be posting daily, right? So see you next time. Till then, stay happy, stay safe and have a great day. Namaste and Jai Hind.